I'm sure that I joined the beef discussions up above. We've managed to solve EUDR challenges. So we're quite happy and confident with our results. I hope our colleagues who were discussing soy and deforestation issues also had as much success. We heard you clapping regularly all throughout. How we're going to proceed now is our distinguished guests have joined. Before going into the final two speakers, we're going to present quickly some of the main findings from both of the two groups, namely soya and beef, to hear a little bit about some of the main challenges and identification of issues within both sectors. So I'm going to invite a speaker who was on the soy panel, if they can join the stage. Who would like to take the floor? Say? Yeah? Please come join me here. And also our colleagues from the beef sector, I see we're organizing some of the lists here, so we'll give them 2 minutes, but maybe if you'd like to start, Thomas, you're more than welcome. Thank you.
Yeah. Dear colleagues, thanks for organizing this wonderful event and this great opportunity to be here today. You will hear more from me tomorrow when it is my role to sum up the main results, insights of this summit. But today I was also asked to give a short wrap-up of my first impressions of the workshop, and I attended here the workshop on soya. And I quickly made up my mind, and I said, okay, how do I do this? I think I won't repeat every point that were gathered by the different groups in this session, but I will contextualize a bit what has been said and will summarize what has been said under 4 headings, and this is uncertainty, costs, solutions, and finally legitimacy. And why uncertainty? I think this is a theme that came up from many discussion points, and there's uncertainty related to very different aspects of this new regulation, the EUDR regulation, and of course what has been mentioned in this workshop is it's the rule itself that are not clear for all participants of this summit. It may be clear for the people from the European Commission or lawyers and politicians who have been dealing with this law for a very long time and have developed this law, but my impression is that the rules of this law are not totally clear for producers and for operators in producing countries, and this creates the first source of an uncertainty. So the questions that have been raised throughout is, what needs to be done to comply with the rules? What exactly needs to be done? What defines deforestation exactly? How can we exactly prove legality? And how is this handled by 27 different competent authorities on the EU member side? These are questions related to uncertainty, to the rules of the law itself. Then there is a lot has been brought up related to uncertainty of the technical systems that have been introduced this morning. I mean, these are really complex and highly sophisticated systems, and it needs a great effort to develop these systems, and they are very impressive. That was my impression this morning. But then questions are, which satellite systems are used? How can we ensure that the satellite images are precise? What if different satellite systems diverge? Which is the one that is trusted in the end, or which is needed in the end? What about information confidentiality? How can we ensure that important business information are not traded throughout the value chains? These are all questions related to the uncertainty, to uncertainties related to these systems that have been introduced today. Then, also interesting points about uncertainty is, if we look at these systems, there are many stakeholders across across the value chain that have to collaborate also on providing the necessary information, also to be honest and truthful players in these value chains, and they all depend on each other. Yeah? And how do we make sure that all stakeholders collaborate? Because if one doesn't, then maybe the whole system is in peril. And then in the end, the last point here for uncertainty is, if these I'm just summarizing points that have been brought up. If these systems are developed on a national level and we have one system or we have two systems, then these systems become very important. What if they somehow become unreliable, if they fail? Then this does affect the entire country, it was mentioned, because then maybe the risk awareness on side of the European Union goes up because for the entire country, because these systems will play a big role in reducing country-level risks. So there's a lot of dependency and uncertainty, and this raises, of course, questions for all the people who I listen to. Costs. Costs, we have different dimensions. Of course, we have the direct costs. Yeah? What was mentioned in the workshop was, okay, we have this costs of software development, costs for developing the technical infrastructure, costs for paying the professionals who run the systems, who administer the systems, the direct costs related to the systems. And we have, of course, compliance costs. Stakeholders have to provide information. This costs a lot of time. They have to organize physically segregated value chains. This needs investments. The information needs to be verified. All these are costs just to ensure the right informations to be in compliance with the regulations. And then we have costs, that is the second, third point that has been raised. Costs related to competitiveness. It has been raised that there are different regions. For some, the costs go up, for others, they go down. So the law may just change the competitiveness between countries and between regions, and also between different kinds of producers. Some have it easier, some have to do more to be in compliance with the laws. And this has raised some concerns here in the workshop. So, solutions, of course, that have been suggested here, what I've understood so far, it's really a preliminary assessment, is the first thing is reduce costs as much as you can, enable a smooth flow of data throughout the different systems, enable data migration, avoid double regulation, so that that the systems, that many different systems require the same information, and you have to give them like many times, but organize it on the national level in a way that data can flow between different information systems for different regulations. And then one thing that was mentioned, but I already know that this is probably against the letter of the laws, is to allow for territorial approaches. So if there are territories where it's very clear that no deforestation has taken place, then why not certify the entire territory and not do it on the plot level or on the farm level? Makes things more efficient. I know it won't work this way probably, but has been suggested. And then reduce costs, and this is the perspective we get here, yeah, when we talk about the UEDR here in the producer countries. It's create incentives. I think a common theme here is, we have to do a lot, but we need incentives. This morning it has been mentioned that there is a first mover advantage, that probably you get privileged access to markets, high price markets. This is one incentive that is certainly out there, but more incentives as solutions have been mentioned. There needs to be a compensation in the market. This was one of the solutions to make the producers more motivated to join these systems. And if we then go down, or what means down, we look at the smallholder level, there is a lot to do still in terms of provide trainings, provide capacities to the smallholders, provide awareness raising. All this has been mentioned because they have to be enabled to be part of these systems. Okay, finally, I want to talk a bit about legitimacy, because many of the points in the end relate to the legitimacy of this law. And we started this morning with beautiful presentations, very illuminating presentations by Dr. Baldorf and the EU ambassador. And of course, what is the legitimacy here? And the motivation was very clear. It is we have this huge problem of deforestation, of climate change. All other regulations have failed so far, we have to be honest, and now we have to do something concrete, something that works. And this is where the legitimacy comes from the deforestation perspective, from the climate perspective, from the Paris Agreement perspective. And this is important, and this is a very crucial part of this law. Dr. Baldorf also said, okay, but of course in different contexts there can be different expectations about these laws, different expectations, different cultures looking differently, different interests looking differently at this law. And then maybe here the legitimacy question is different, because what has been mostly impressing me from the workshops and from the inside was, okay, in the end you have to convince the producers to take part of this. And this is true, because if you look at it from a formal legal point of view, the law ends with this little blue square that Dr. Baldorf made around the value chain. Yeah? You can only use the force of law to force the operators in the EU. But after that the producers have to comply. The producers have to comply is the wrong word. The producers in the producing countries, they have to play along. They have to be willing to use these systems, to segregate their value chains and not shift all the production to other markets or act differently. And this is the perspective that we hear here. So, and the overall question then is, how do we bring all this together? The expectations to save forests, to end deforestation, we all share. We heard this many times this morning, but also the expectations that this needs to come with some incentives for the producers who in the end have to do this. And I think on a kind of abstract level, this is the elephant in the room that needs to be solved here. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Thomas. Now we're going to hear a little bit from our discussions in the beef sector, and I'm going to welcome our speaker, Paulo Mortara Batistic. Please come up to the stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Tomislav. Thanks a lot, Thomas, for a great introduction. I could have said better myself, and I'll try to spare everyone. I know everyone should be tired from this intense day of work. And I had the pleasure to accompany the group discussing beef. I think first and foremost, it was a great opportunity to bring different people from different countries together, and the realization that different countries have different requirements. and this was mentioned throughout all the questions. And like that, there were many other points which I'll try to summarize here. And I will disregard for this reason the questions, the 4 questions that were guiding the session. Because these points came up so often, and yeah, it makes the whole questions almost irrelevant, but of course they were very valuable for us to guide the workshop. First and foremost, like I said, different countries, different requirements. I think several of the questions were answered with this realization, like I said, but then again, great opportunity for countries to get together and find solutions that work for everyone and understand what doesn't work for everyone to come up with their own solutions. Second point that was very, very prominent throughout all the questions. Capacity building, as Thomas already said, is definitely the most important thing here. We have to understand that this regulation brings up costs, which I'll mention a bit more later. But capacity building for the smallholders, regardless if they're small, if they're big holders. There was also several discussions circulated around the standards. It's not clear what are the standards going to be, so therefore it's hard to decide what we're going to do. Standards, either they're private or they're public, there needs to be harmonization of these standards. And also, has to be an understanding of what's going to be accepted by the EU, how, when, etc., etc. So the rules are not clear. It seems like producers are saying, telling the EU, tell us what to do, we'll do it. We want to have access to the markets, but we don't know what you're asking us. Then we had capacity and finance, of course. Capacity building doesn't only relate to finance, it also relates to information, training, and so on. Traceability and satellite geosystems, those are also keywords that were said many, many times. We had segregation logistics, costs. Then again, the implementation is not free. So costs are not fairly distributed, according to what I heard on the beef workshop. And these same costs will push smallholders out of the picture for many, many people who spoke in the workshop. And finally, there were different hot topics that came out throughout the 4 questions as well. Legality, informality of the producers, which is a reality not only for Latin America, but many other exporting countries. Formality or informality is definitely a hot topic here too. And land tenure, which was not exactly addressed. We didn't find many solutions, I think, in the workshop, but then again, limited time. But it is something that the producers and the producing countries are thinking about. And yeah, if I can finish with anything, I think it would be cooperation, I think, is the way to go. I think a lot of what was said above, upstairs, was about cooperation. Cooperation from governments here in Latin America, but also cooperation with the governments here, with the governments from the EU, and how the EU needs to talk internally as well. And after they talk internally, they need to know what the exporters need to do. Thank you very much.